Welcome to the event. We're really happy that you're here. We're about to go live in just a few moments, but before we lift off, there's a few important things we want to make sure that you're aware of so you get the best possible experience out of this. First of all, the sound current is supremely important to us, the musical experience. So if possible, we really encourage you to use good speakers or headphones to experience the class with. Second, if you have any pre-existing injuries, please take care of yourself, modify as you need to. Don't risk exacerbating an injury because of a yoga exercise. If you have any pre-existing medical conditions and you're not quite sure if this would be good for you, please consult with your primary healthcare practitioner and make sure it's the right thing for you. Also, make yourself relatively comfortable. You can use a cushion, and in fact, we encourage you in our seated positions, meditation practices, to use a cushion. It helps lift the heart up, keep the spine straight, and it's more ideal for the flow of energy in the body and for the meditation experience. You can even be sitting in a chair with feet flat on the floor for those of you that are unable to sit in a meditative sitting posture on the floor. Just use a chair, and for many of the exercises, that will work perfectly fine. And then lastly, if you're having any problems with the video streaming, try refreshing the page, or if you see a gear icon on the video, adjust your resolution. If you're new to this type of thing, just take care of yourself. If there's something that you don't quite understand, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Everything that needs to click will click after a few times of trying it out. Enjoy the experience. We're about to get started in just a moment.
Okay, greetings everybody. Happy Eclipse Day. Thanks for being here. It's a special day for us because this is the first time ever that we've, it's not the first time ever that we've been in this space, but it's the first time ever since we've acquired this space. This is, happy to announce, this is the new Life Force Academy studio in Nevada City. And so it's kind of a big deal. It's for so many years we've been doing these types of events, but we finally have a space that is bigger, and we can have people also in person, and we can do our teacher trainings in here, and we can do some of our immersions in here, and this type of thing. So anyways, happy Eclipse, which brings me to the thought, I suppose, that when an eclipse is coming, like it is now, and this is not a rare phenomenon, of course. It happens a couple times every year. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you get like 5 of them. In between, there's always first lunar eclipse, solar eclipse. They always come in twos. They always come in pairs. But sometimes you'll get a third or even fourth one. Thankfully, this year it's just 2. And even eclipses, even though as yogis or people who are interested in also the subtle facets of life, not just the material world, but also that which is underneath the surface, then eclipses are actually most welcomed experiences. But they do stir things up, and they do create unsettled energy. And they do have the potential to bring challenges and difficulties in our life, but so what? This is what life is. We don't have to know about an eclipse to know that there's difficulties around the bend. That's always the case in human life. Sometimes it's smooth and easy, and sometimes there's challenges coming. So really, kind of to me, what the glory of yoga and tantra is that it doesn't matter that in both those cases, whether things are going like really great, just how I want it to go, or if things are going really difficult and I wish they weren't like this and I'm suffering a lot, in both those cases, I'm blossoming, I'm flourishing, I'm becoming more of myself. And so that's what's beautiful about an eclipse. In this particular eclipse, the eclipse is happening in the Vedic sign Sidereal Libra, which is the natural seventh house of the zodiac, the natural seventh constellation, so the seventh house of the zodiac, which is the first house is the house of the other. First house is house of the self, seventh house is house of the other. So for 2 weeks from now, we'll have a lunar eclipse. And that lunar eclipse will be across the sky in Aries, first house of the self. Aries is very self-oriented. Like if you know people with like sun in Aries, for instance, it gives you an example of what that's like. The discovery of the self, the ability to experience the grandeur of the self. Aries, fire. Libra is interested in the other, creating a balance. And so it's a house of relationship. And it's a constellation of relationship. But when there's an eclipse happening there, so right now we're on the precipice of the new moon, which creating a partial solar eclipse in the constellation of Libra, in the section of Libra called Swati, which is symbolized by a shoot or a sprout blowing in the wind. Its deity is called Vayu, which is wind itself. It's like deified wind. All yoga practitioners and people that study and practice Ayurveda know all about Vayu, because it's the Vayus that control the winds of the body. You have the prana Vayu, which brings energy into our body. So through all of our sense organs, when I'm able to see something and what I'm seeing is actually kind of entering into my awareness, and then it kind of metabolizes inside of my awareness. Also what I'm hearing, what the sense of touch, smell, fragrance, taste. So even when we're eating food and taking food into the body, this is ruled by pranavayu. It's not important to remember all this. I'm just kind of painting a picture for us to practice in and to give some sense of kind of the substance that is there, and also how much of a nice opportunity it is to do this type of a thing during an eclipse time. So the Vayus are the winds that kind of govern all the physiology of the body and all the mental and emotional processes as well. You have Pranavayu, which brings things in. You have Apanavayu, which eliminates things out. So why Triphala in Ayurveda is so popular and so famous and so revered in India, for instance, because it's so good in helping Apanavayu. So people know it just what is Apanavayu? Elimination. Well, people would know it from the most basic function it has. It's a laxative. And so that's helpful. It's a non-habit forming laxative. Most laxatives, they weaken your ability to eliminate. Triphala is revered because it strengthens your ability to eliminate, because it's strengthening Apanavayu. I didn't think this is what I'd be talking about tonight, but here we are. And so that's pranavayu, the incoming wind. Apanavayu is the outgoing wind. And then you have what's called vyanavayu, it's the heart center. It's the circulating wind. So what comes in, then you want to digest it. That's called samanavayu at the digestive system. And then you want to circulate it. But you also want to eliminate out what's not useful. You take some food in, you want to digest the nutrients. Those nutrients need to be circulated around to all the tissues, the cells, the organs. And you want to be able to eliminate out the waste product, because anything that comes in has a waste product as well, just like an engine. The human vehicle is very much like that. For like an engine to create locomotion, there has to be some fuel that has to be metabolized. There's always an exhaust, just like on our cars. So the same principles are true for how the human physiology works. And one of the real cool things about Ayurveda and Vedic astrology, yogic astrology, is that it gives you a very simple language for understanding these things. It sounds kind of complex. It's the first time you're hearing it, but it's actually all quite simple. It's not nearly as complicated, for instance, as trying to study biochemistry. Because when we're talking yoga or tantra or astrology or Ayurveda, We're talking in a language of nature. It's almost more poetic than it is anything else. It's part science, but it's also very much art, which is why I love it, which is why it works for me personally so well. So anyways, these are the vayus. And so this is a special time right now where this vayu energy is very prominent and it's strong naturally in nature. Part of what learning the language of astrology allows us to do is to pay attention to the seasons of our life, but to give more specificity to our understanding of what the seasons of our life are bringing forth for us. So if I know that Saturn is coming onto my ascendant for 2.5 years, and I know what Saturn's all about, and I know what my ascendant is all about. You see, these are just the building blocks of the language. And once you learn the building blocks of the language, you can take it infinitely from there. And then it becomes fun. But until you know the building blocks of the language, it's like, whoa, okay, it makes sense, doesn't it? But you're not even sure why it makes sense. It's like, I've heard about my ascendant all my life. I don't really know what it is, this type of thing. And so, but once you really spend time unpacking it, as I'm really excited about this, because it's years in the making that we're about to begin the yogic astrology course in mid-November. And that's about really learning this language. And to be able to then know, okay, to be able to see not only if something difficult is happening, but what is the medicine of that difficult thing that is coming? And how to actually help guide intuitively my disposition so that I can make sure, or at least I can increase the chances that I'm going to be able to enjoy this part of my life. Because sometimes difficult seasons of our life are hard to enjoy, aren't they? It's hard to keep track of our joy when things are really difficult, or we're feeling a lot of depression, or we're feeling a lot of sadness. But it's absolutely possible to keep track of our joy. That's the beauty of yoga. That's the beauty of Ayurveda. That's the beauty of the whole system. It's really all one big system, and you're now looking at it through different lenses. Astrology to me is not planets up in the sky that are controlling you. Astrology to me is giving a way of decoding the language of Mother Nature through the context of the cosmos, the constellations, the planet. Why wouldn't we pay attention to the planetary spheres out there in the stars? Have you ever gone out and looked at it? It's pretty amazing. But the more that we get into modern life, big city, bright lights, the more light pollution that we have, it becomes easier to forget the grandeur of Mother Nature in that way. So also paying attention to these types of things, paying attention to astrology, just even basic thing of paying attention to eclipses helps us to be to kind of maintain that humility that we're part of nature. We are nature. We're not looking at nature through a human perspective. We are looking at nature through a human perspective, but as a part of nature, not outside of her. So anyhow, when an eclipse comes, you see the eclipse axis, the two nodes of the moon, north node and the south node, or in the Indian system, they're Rahu and Ketu. They're always exact opposite from each other in the sky, and wherever they are in the sky, and they go in the opposite direction than all the other planets, by the way, they're like constantly in retrogression. And they're also called chayagrahas, meaning they're shadow planets. They're not actually planets. The only time you ever see Ketu is like during an eclipse. So for some people in the world, what is in this eclipse in India and parts of Europe and Southeast Asia, you can see Ketu as the shadow over the sun. And 2 weeks will be a Rahu eclipse, will be the shadow over the moon. So there's chayagrahas, shadow planets. And so they change constellations about every 18 months or so. And And so that means they're going to change domains of each of our life. Every year and a half, couple years, there's going to be a certain emphasis in different areas of each of our life, depending on what the stars were like when we were born. Does that make sense? So for instance, because when I was born, Capricorn was on the ascendant, that means this eclipse is happening in my 4th. This eclipse in the morning is happening in my 10th house, and in 2 weeks it'll happen in my 4th house. Those are across the sky from each other. Those are 2 domains of life, of 10th house, career, 4th house, home. They represent more than that, but those are the two of the big things, 2 of the first things we would think about: career, home, mother, vehicles. And so the eclipse axis changed about in late May or June of this year into those. Right away, once that happened, I had a well problem at my house where my house ran out of water. We live in Northern California. Water can be a problem here. Having enough water can be a problem here. That was probably a problem that was right at the edge of things for some time, but somehow or another, when Rahu, which is a Vata creating energy and a drying energy, moved into my 4th house, all of a sudden, boom. And I've been dealing with it ever since, actually. And so also change and transformation is often what is happening with eclipses, but not necessarily on the eclipse day. In fact, not usually on the eclipse day. What we're talking about is bigger waves of energy. Eclipse moments are like trigger moments, I think. Eclipse times, eclipse windows, during the eclipse especially, but in the couple of days on each side of the eclipse. Like trigger points, which is why it makes sense to do yoga practice during it. That's why they say that the effects of one's yoga practice, like say you're doing a mantra, you're doing a meditation, or you're doing like what we're going to do tonight, it says exponentially amplified during an eclipse time. My experience has shown me that that's definitely true. So, but the transformation and change in our life isn't necessarily just going to pop up on that day. And I think when we kind of casually follow these types of things, that's kind of more of what we might think and expect. It was like, I didn't really feel it on the eclipse day. But maybe you've been feeling it since June, certain new waves of energy that have come into the life, and they can intensify during these periods of time. They say, don't make big decisions during an eclipse, or try not to. And I agree. And my experience is also this: sometimes they put you in an emotional state where you will absolutely have to work to not do that. Because they destabilize energy, then we become more emotional. And we become a little more insecure about our life, because when things are destabilized, we feel like we've lost a bit of what's underneath us. And we had such a good sense of things, and now it's like, I don't know. And so when you're in that state, that's when the mind tends to try to figure everything out. But really why yoga practice is so helpful is because it's actually kind of a lousy time to try to figure things out, because when emotion goes high, the intuitive intelligence goes down. And so therefore, if you can use that energy that's been destabilized a little bit, and then you put it in the center of your nervous system, which is what Kundalini Yoga is so excellent at helping us do, then all of a sudden this thing that was causing us a challenge or a problem has now become an asset. You've taken that potential energy that's like, ooh, it was shaking things around, and that could be in the form of, we might be thinking like some mystical thing. That could mean you've just been feeling super emotional, or you've been feeling super angry, or you've been feeling just confused. Like confusion is an expression of potential energy that can be then centered and used. All of the emotions is energy in motion. And so these practices are so empowering. And that's what I like to think of when I think of, for instance, yogic astrology. I'm not trying to make predictions. I'm mostly using it as a tool and as a vehicle and as a language that helps me experience more of my own potential. So much of the time when we start analyzing ourselves, it causes us to and often it's the case analyzing ourselves through a horoscope, a natal chart. We'll start to focus on everything that's wrong. And we feel like our horoscope ain't so good. And then even sometimes there's a real thing called horoscope envy, where you wish you had somebody else's horoscope. But that's so silly, you know? Because my always starting point is everybody has the perfect horoscope. Definitely, because we're all created out of the supreme intelligence of nature. We're all living from the heartbeat of love. This is what grew us in our mother's womb, what beats her heart, what turned her blood into milk, what rotates the earth, what holds the stars in the firmament. As I stole that, and I didn't steal, I'm inspired by that from Maya Angelou. I heard her say, that which beats the heart. And she said, that which holds the stars in the firmament. Love Maya Angelou. And this is why I need things for me to be an art, especially when it comes to things like astrology. Because otherwise it can be really head-tripping. But if you're using it to find deeper inspiration and deeper sense of purpose in life. So look at me, I had that transformation in my 4th house, and then what's happened in the 10th house? Much more enjoyable than water going dry at the home. We have a transformation and a change where now we are in a brand new studio, right on the eclipse time. But it's been in motion for some time, so now there's been some sort of change or transformation in my 10th house of career. It's nice. An astrology course is being launched. And so Ketu and Rahu, and we can focus on Ketu because this eclipse, this solar eclipse, is the Ketu eclipse. Ketu is, if you read about it, you're going to hear more negative things. But to a yogi, Ketu is a beautiful, an amazing, positive energy because it causes you to become aware of more of what is real versus what is not real. And that is often experienced by people as a difficult thing because that's the purification process. And so what Ketu does is it causes us to detach from our attachments. And sometimes, whether we like it or not, it'll just bring the circumstances out. Like I didn't even know how attached I was to having water in my house until it's gone. Then I was like, oh my God, I'm texting Aki. Like, what do I do? It's like, this is not Aki's job. And thank you, by the way, to Aki and to Dam, because this all got put up in like less than a week. And here we are, just getting going. So anyways, we're going to do some yoga practice. And we'll continue to kind of reflect on this eclipse energy as we go through it. Because I think there's a little more to tune into, in particularly for this. Because regardless of what house this falls in your particular life, Libra is a constellation of relationship. And this eclipse is happening with Venus very, very closely conjunct to the eclipse. And so Venus is a planet of relationship. But when Ketu is there, Ketu isn't concerned about your love relationship. Ketu is concerned about your relationship with yourself, the inner relationship between you and your own mind, you and your own consciousness and awareness. That's how all the other relationships truly blossom, when that gets good. When that inner relationship with who we are and what we're all about, not in some definitive way, but also in the way of wonder and mystery and beauty. When that is becoming more and more the experience of what we are, our inner experience, not based on some philosophy we learn, but something that we're in concert with on a regular basis, on a daily basis. That's what these practices are all about. And that relationship feeds every relationship. How's any other relationship going to work if you don't have the confidence in yourself? Ketu can help you have that. If you embrace it and if you're utilizing it that way, it turns you into the spiritual realm of life, Ketu, not the materialistic realm. Sense of confidence and sense of self that's based on material things, Ketu can actually really disrupt that confidence. But to give you real confidence, the confidence that's based on the inner love of the self, the inner love of experiencing the grandeur of what each of us are, knowing that each of us is the nucleus of all of it, the nucleus of living intelligence, the nucleus of living love. Its nucleus is everywhere. Its circumference is nowhere. So isn't that interesting how you're the nucleus and this is the nucleus and yet none of it is? And so in this practice tonight, when we're kind of taking that potential energy and centering it into the nervous system, it's an experience of that nucleus. When the life force chi, prana, is able to be well concentrated in the center of the channels, then the mind comes into a nice, beautiful spaciousness. And from there, it's like all this thinking about things will dissipate, and you get filled up. And out of that, comes confidence, experience. Okay, let us begin. Take your hands and make a little heat. And welcome everybody at home especially everybody who we're meeting for the first time. And if you're first time doing Kundalini Yoga, well, fantastic. This will be a lot of fun, and I think it'll be a cool experience. But if there's anything not making sense so much, don't worry about it. Tonight's just about having a journey together, tuning our body-mind instrument, making sure that we're feeling good, getting vitality in the body. So any of the formalities and all this that you're not yet familiar with, it's not important. Mostly important tonight is to just go into it and enjoy. And anything that's not making sense, just don't worry. Keep going. Inhale deep. Exhale. Close the eyes down. Inhale deep. Exhale. Palms together like you're bringing negative and positive polarities together, like feminine, masculine polarities. Because we are, after all, magnetic creatures. Inhaling deeply. Your breath is the vehicle of magnetic energy. Prana, chi. And when you exhale, fully exhale the breath out of the nose. And only then inhale deeply. And then exhale completely. Push all the breath out, 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 out. Inhaling deeply. Suspension of the breath. That's keeping the breath in, yet allowing your upper body and shoulder blades to relax. And draw the gaze, third eye space. And exhaling. Third eye space is simply relax the gaze up in between the two eyebrows. Inhale deeply. Suspend the breath where the root of your nose meets your skull bone. See if you can relax your optic gaze into that general area. In suspension of the breath. And push the breath out. Exhale through your nose. And push it all the way out now. Now, deep inhale. Suspension. And then draw that gaze. The starting point, how to concentrate life force. That gives you power. Exhale. Power to be happy. Inhale deep. Inhale. And just take a moment and kind of reflect on some intention that you have, just for your life right now, for this season of your life. And exhale. And kind of keep that reflection in your mind and in your heart. And if you're not sure what that might be, you can maybe just let it emerge, not forcing anything, but being open, receptive to your own innate wisdom. We all have it. Come on to the hands and knees. That's the thing, right? We all have our own innate wisdom. We don't need someone else to tell us the direction of our life. We might have good help, good guides, good friends, good mentors. Spread your fingers wide and press each of the fingers in and feel the earth underneath you. You kind of press through the arms a little bit, and then you begin cat-cow. Inhaling, the head is coming up. Exhaling, the head is coming down. As the head comes down, you also tuck the pelvis under, massaging that lower digestive organs. Create a nice smooth rhythm. Go at your own pace. And now putting the breath into the body, paying attention to this vayu, the pranic winds that move through the body. And how do we put that into balance is by creating good rhythm for ourselves. So create a breath rhythm. It's not too rigid. Feel into your own body. Nurture your body. But find a nice way to start to make your spine supple through the exercise. And putting special attention into the inhalation and the exhalation through the nose, creating a substantively rhythmic breath. And as we continue for the next minute or so, it'll open up, the rhythm will get deeper, and you'll start to feel nice. Another 30 seconds. Now deepen the breathing. We're going on a journey together. I was trying to let go of all the thinking, thoughts, anticipating events to come, ruminating on the past, things that have gone by, and using your breath to bring your mind and awareness more fully present. Inhale, head is up. And exhale, head is down. Good, relax into child's pose for a few moments. And just feel into your heart space. And once again, drawing your mind into the certain intentionality you have for your life. Maybe it's just like more love, or more joy, or it's maybe it's a prosperity, maybe it's more understanding or compassion, whatever it may be. Let your own heart guide you. Just centering it in yourself one more time. And then as we go into the practice, the focus is, the intent has already been set. It's like planting a seed. Then the idea is to focus as best as you can on the focal point of the practice. Come sitting up on the heels. And the starting focal point for any of these practices is always your breath. Hands on your lap like this, and inhale, lifting through your chest, exhaling back. Now deeper the breathing, continue. And inhale deeply, and then suspend the breath, spacious of the mind, and exhale. Beautiful. Come back sitting easy pose, cross-legged. Hands to your shoulders. Inhaling to the left, exhaling to the right. Once again, the posture is part of your focus. You're right on your sit bones. The heart is lifted, the shoulder blades release. Elbows are up at shoulder level. Inhaling left, exhaling right. But then the breath becomes the primary focus, putting your energy in rhythm by creating a rhythmic deep breath is opening the spinal system. It need not be aggressive, but it does have groove. It does have a depth. Now to the center, inhale. Suspend the breath. Exhale. And beautiful, hands on your knees. And then like a inhaling up, exhale, release. Na, set, na, set, na, set, na, set, na, set. Deeper the breath, please. Inhale, squeeze up, and squeeze out some of the tension. And release, exhale. Stretch your legs wide open, like a V shape. And flex the feet. And be right on your sit bones as much as possible. Keep your heart lifted. Flex your feet, energy in your toes. Inhale, center. Turn to either side, exhale down. You had it right, first time. Yeah, inhale to center to either side, exhale down. Inhale up, exhale down. So go to your left side, exhale down. Inhale up, go to the other side, exhale down. Don't worry about touching your toes. Lead with your heart. Move from your navel. Every inhale, fill your lungs. Almost there, deeper the breath. Into the center, inhale. Good, and then hinge forward, exhale down. Good. Now extend up through the chest, tuck through the chin, and just flex the feet. Groin areas relax, the eyes closed down. Just for a few moments, long, deep breathing here. See if you can release your shoulder blades and let the chest forward and tuck the chin in. And inhale deeply. And exhale, relax. And shake the legs out. Come back sitting cross-legged. And hands Gyan Mudra, index finger to thumb like this. Yep, palms facing up, chest lifted. Like this, Lola, just like this. Chest lifted, shoulder blades release, eyes closed down. Inhale. And then through the nose like a... Through the nose, equal exhale, inhale. Now inhale deeply. Suspend the breath. Exhale. Inhale deeply. Suspend the breath. And then bring the gaze, optic gaze, third eye space. And exhale. Round two, take a deep inhale. And once again. See if you can center the gaze, third eye, and then put the breath in rhythm, vayu. By putting the breath in rhythm, you can put your whole life in rhythm. You work with your prana first, you work with the whole rest of your life. The prana is the energy of our life. So it starts with a relationship, starts there. Relationship with the own prana, and then that overflows into the prana of all of our life activities. So very much so, meditation, yoga practice has influences on our prosperity, has influences on the energy of our relationships, and all the activities of our life. And we can bring kind of our best foot forward. And we can get into the deeper, purposeful rhythm of life. With the rhythm. And good, inhale. Suspension of the breath. Spacious mind. Gaze of the third eye. Exhale. See, Eclipse is wonderful for this type of endeavor. Talking to your roommate about that thing that's been annoying you for the last 6 months, maybe just wait a couple more weeks. Come standing, just a couple more of these energization exercises before the main kriyas. Your hands index finger to thumb, palms facing forward, and it's like a yogi's march. Just go, yeah, just like that. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Sat, na, sat, na, sat, na, sat, na, sat, na, sat, na, sat. It looks like we've been hibernating. It'll get the blood circulating, working those big muscles of your legs, but it'll get the immune system strong. Every inhale, stretch through your armpits, where all that lymphatic nodes are, upper chest, under the armpits, like a march. Good. Stretch up, inhale. And relax, exhale. And then stretch the legs wide and then the arms out to the side. Yep, like that. Inhale there, and then exhale down. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Every inhale, fill your lungs. Open your vitality up. It's like they put you under a certain pressure, these kriyas, but that pressure helps us tap that deeper reservoir of energy and vitality, which gives good energy and health to the body, but it gives good sense of purpose and conviction to the mind. When our real energy can be felt in our tissue layers and in our cells. You don't have to wonder where your purpose is. There'll be nowhere where it's not. You can't avoid it. You can't find anything that isn't part of it. Every breath, fill the lungs. Okay, inhale up. Fingers nice and tight, firm. Legs are strong. Exhale, relax. And come back sitting and have a little bit of water. Because here we go. I think you're gonna love this. It's fantastic. In the first few minutes, maybe you'll be like, at first maybe you'll love it, and then maybe you'll start to not love it for a little bit, and maybe you'll be very displeased with it for even a period of time, and then I predict that then you'll love it again. Because at some point it puts all the energy in rhythm, and you'll see what I mean, but typically it'll take you through some threshold of resistance, like most of these kriyas of Kundalini Yoga do. But really all of the 9 planets are also the 7 chakras and then the 2 nadis. The 2 nadis that spiral around the central channel of the spine, Ida and Pingala, relate to Rahu and Ketu, the 2 nodes of the ecliptic. And then you have the 7 other. You have Saturn, like Muladhara chakra. You have Jupiter. You have Mars at the navel. You have Venus at the heart. You have Mercury at the throat chakra. You have Sun and Moon as the 2 poles of the third eye. Very cool. So to work with your yoga practice is to very much like elevate your horoscope. So it's well worth. Now, your fingers must be firm in this, okay? And what you're going to be doing is this movement where it goes shoot, shoot. It's not fast. It's just like that rhythm. But it's precise. So you see the fingers are tight, fingers are firm, okay? And like you're going to bring the hands like powerfully together, but then they stop like about 6 inches away. And the key is to try to not let the energy between the 2 hands be broken through the kriya. That's the pressure you put on yourself. You just do your best though. Okay, then the breath. It'll be like this. So it's a 5-count inhalation through the nose. And then it's a 5-count exhalation through O-shaped puckered mouth. Okay, it's called, this kriya, it's called Breath of 10. It's fantastic. So again, it's a 5-segmented inhale. So you take 5 sniffs in to make your inhale, and then you take 5 strokes of the exhale through rounded lips. I'll show again, like this. Like this. It's almost like an ancient ritual, but you gotta hit the groove of it, you know? It's not just aerobics. Give it a dance. The whole upper body's involved. Your whole energy's involved. Your whole heart's involved with the breath. Fingers are firm. You're building your magnetism. It's not easy work. It really takes all of you. It's difficult. But if you can deepen the breath, allow the mind to go through its commotions, but stay with the breath. Even if you can't stay with the body, stay with the breath. After a little while, the pressure eases up, your body will start to feel light, and you'll feel the dance of it. You'll feel everything start to kind of enliven and revitalize. Five-stroke inhale through the nose. 5-stroke exhale through the rounded, puckered mouth. With every movement is building the magnetism between the two hands. Keep the fingers firm and the breath strong. Taking this eclipse time and moment and meeting its energy, meeting the time of our life. And building your prana, building the magnetism through which we live our lives. So we can love more courageously, so we can experience more and more happiness, more joy, more compassion for all the suffering we encounter, both in ourselves and with the others of our life. With the rhythm, like an ancient dance. Yeah, like that. Go. Eyes closed, third eye. Very difficult, as you're doing beautifully. It's not too much more now. But now if you could, deeper the breath. Fingers are firm. Powerful. These are the great warrior kriyas of Kundalini Yoga. With all the force, with all the breath, with all the rhythm, go. Just a couple more minutes only, with all the breath. Concentrating the prana. It'll have to respond. You're putting it in an impossible situation where the only options are to continue or to stop. Within that pressure of polarity, continue if you can. Put the breath into a rhythm so the mind can enter into its meditative space. Seconds. Chest out, chin in, shoulder blades release. Root lock is lifted. Keep going.
Even when we can, love will rule the day. Love will rule the day. Love will rule it.
Now keep the movement going, but inhale the breath. Keep the breath in. Keep the movement going. And keep the movement going and exhale through the nose. And inhale deeply. Keep the breath in as you continue the movement. And keep going, but exhale. And inhale. And keep the breath in and move powerfully. And exhale. Now inhale deep and press your hands under your cheekbones. Press against the face. Keep the breath in, lift the root lock. And then exhale. And then take the hands on your chest like this. Inhale deeply. Press against the chest with your hands. Press against the hands with your chest. Exhale. Now take all your fingers and into just below your belly button and your abdomen. Inhale. And press into the abdomen with your fingers. And lift up through your pelvic floor. Press into your abdomen with your fingers. And then exhale. And relax. And relax all the way to your backs. Relax. Beautiful job. Now, very important is to give yourself a really great relaxation. Lay down and let your arms out some. Let your legs out some. Let them spread out a little bit. Let your arms come out. Let your legs come out and your palms facing up. Relax your jaw. Relax your mind. And just let go. Move the fingers. Move the toes. And rub the palms, make some heat. Rub the soles of the feet, make some heat. And then you cat stretch to either side, to each side. And then hug the knees to the chest. And then rock and roll a couple of times. And here's the real alchemy of the practice. The hard work is done. And you take your hands into this really beautiful triangle mudra of the heart center. Index fingertips touching, thumb tips touching. The other three fingers of each hand curling in like guardians. And as best of a triangle you can make. And you hold it right in front of your heart center. Pelvic floor is gently lifted, shoulder blades released, chin ever so slightly in. And to the best of your ability, suspend yourself in that very beautiful regal-like posture. Close your eyes down and begin to breathe long, slow, and deep through your nose. The pranic meditation for the heart center. The heart center is the seat of Vayu. Breathe long, slow, and deep through your nose. Meditatively, consciously, long, complete breaths. This meditation works very intensely in the heart center, but in a subtle way. The more still you can keep the body, even if the mind is feeling commotional or agitated, see if you can keep your body totally still and the breath long, slow, and deep. concentrate on the breath. Less than a minute. Now hold the position, inhale deep. And take your hands, interlock them behind your head and press your elbows back and chest forward like this. O-shaped puckered mouth, like this. Equal exhale, inhale. Elbows back, chest out. Third eye gaze with the rhythm. Seconds, merge into the rhythm, please. Go all in it. Inhale deeply. Now lift through your pelvic floor, squeeze the spine. Keep the breath in, tighten the spine. Now whistle out the exhale. Inhale deep. Lift through the pelvic floor, rectum, sex organ, navel, up and in. Squeeze, tighten the spine. Elbows back, chest forward. Squeeze the spine deep. Then whistle the exhale. Inhale. Lift the root line. Tighten the spine. Squeeze deep. Now whistle the exhale. Now inhale deep. Raise your arms up like this. Fingers tight. Shoulders release. Touch the ceiling. Inhale some more. Now shake the arms. Shake so the whole spine shakes. About 20 seconds, vigorously shake, distributing all the energy to all the parts of the body, the cells, grounding back into the body. Shake, 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 shake. Shake, shake, shake. Relax. Good. Have some water. That's how it goes. You know how you can it took a little time, but it doesn't take that much time to where you can almost always create what I think of as a space change or a state change, because I don't have much control over the outer circumstances of my life. Certain things are happening regardless of my preferences, but I can always change the angle, the perspective from which I'm looking at and from which I'm experiencing that everything from. That's the power of yoga, and that's what I always have felt like over the years, the essential kind of magicianship, magic that a session like this does, or a practice like this does, is I can come into the experience and my stress or whatever is like stimulating my stress, whether it be money, whether it be some relationship thing, or whatever. What are the main triggers of our life? That's all the different domains of the zodiac. Second house of money, third house of siblings. Anybody ever had a siblings energy happening in their life? Of course. But it's also third house is like your hood, your neighborhood. You're in short distance travel. You have a relationship with the area right around you that you live in. Third house, fourth house is the home and the mother and your vehicles. Fifth house is the house of creativity and children and education. But more not really higher education, but the education one would go through up through like high school typically. You can see that through the fifth house. Sixth house, a house of work and service, health and disease. And also sixth house is the house of enemies, adversaries, which we all have. You don't want enemies, don't have friends. This is just the physics of things, and astrology gives you a map of the physics of life. And it puts things in perspective so that you can see through a lens that's going to be helpful. Not over-personalizing things that don't need to be really personalized that much. Because Saturn was on your moon. You know, it was going to be difficult like that. And so if we give some perspective, it's like, oh, I'm not so crazy. There's nothing wrong with me, actually. That's the beauty of it. Build the self-confidence by understanding our inner architecture more thoroughly. This is the beauty of learning the language of astrology. Seventh house, the house of marriage, relationship, and the house of the other. First house, house of the self. Seventh house is the house of the other. So much of each of our happiness is very much intertwined with our general relationship towards others. And so much of our relationship towards others is absolutely dependent on our relationship with the self, our relationship with our own, with who we are, and what we're all about. Yeah? Eighth house is the house of transformation. Eighth house is considered the most difficult house of the zodiac. It's when you have planets that are transiting your eighth house. Every year, for instance, you have your sun, the sun will go through your eighth house. If you know your horoscope, you know what constellation your eighth house is. So that time of year, when the sun is going through your eighth house, you may experience more unsettled energy, and it's been happening all your life, but we don't pay attention. It's not a big deal. Like, unsettled energy isn't a big deal. The eighth house doesn't need to be a big deal. It's not dramatic necessarily. It can be dramatic, don't get me wrong. But generally speaking, it's not dramatic. But these are kind of the subtle rhythms of our life that when you tune into them, it helps us navigate our life so much more easily. Ninth house is the house of dharma, the house of wealth, the house of higher purpose, also the house of your father. It's considered the most positive house in the horoscope. So after you get through the most difficult house of the horoscope, you get to the most typically considered the best house of the horoscope. The ninth house is the third house of dharma. If you know the four pursuits of life, this is the type of thing if you want to do this course, the yogic astrology course with us, you learn that the four main pursuits of life, according to the Vedas, of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma is purpose, artha is prosperity, kama is pleasure, moksha is liberation. That's the basic idea of them. First house is a dharma house. Second house is a prosperity house. Third house is a kama house, a pleasure house. Fourth house is a moksha, a liberation house. Fifth house is a dharma house. Sixth house is an artha house, a prosperity house. Seventh house, relationship, marriage, is a pleasure house. Eighth house, difficult house, house of transformation, a liberation house. Liberation is not easy. And then you get to the final dharma house, which is the ninth house. So it goes around 3 times like that. So the 3 Dharma houses are the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th. That triangle creates what they call the trine. It's the physics of things, the most positive houses in the zodiac. It's very cool. This is such a beautiful study. That's why I'm excited about it. I want to invite you to learn this language if you don't know it. And if you do know it, you might enjoy doing it from this perspective, because yogic astrology and how we're doing it in Life Force Academy is not training astrologers, though. This is about using astrology in our everyday life for ourselves and our families. We integrate it into whatever it is we do, sure. But this is not about learning how to predict things necessarily. This is learning kind of like the inner architecture, the physics of things. And if some like prediction type things naturally flow out of that, okay. But that's not our main pursuit. Our main pursuit is to be happy. Our main pursuit is to be in alignment and attunement with the dharma of our life. So 9th house is a wealth house. Dharma and wealth absolutely go together, real wealth. 10th house is the house of career. 11th house is the house of your circle of friends and groups of people, and the house of gains. So the work that is done in the 10th house, the house of the career or activity in the world, the rewards come in the 11th house, the house of profits. So when you have Jupiter transiting your 11th house, I say, okay, maybe there's a good sign that prosperity is on the way. So you can look at things like that and you can see. But then we don't just say, well, that's how it's going to be because Jupiter is in the 11th house. There's going to be some rewards and profits. There will be in some regard or another. But then you have to experience it. Jupiter going through the 11th house. And so when you're approaching it like this, we're not just listening to some rules of astrology. We're saying, okay, this is the energy of it. This is what this represents. This is what this represents. This is the astrological principle, but now let me see what my experience is. And let me not just think about the planets, but let me experience the planets. So a main pillar of this course is one pillar is learning the language of astrology, and particularly Vedic astrology in this case. But the other pillar is the actual practices and remedies that bring and harmonize with those planets and transits in your life. Harmonize it. If you're not born with a strong Jupiter in your horoscope, well, you can strengthen Jupiter. If you have a very strong Mars, for instance, well, sometimes that Mars needs a good channel of energy so it's not creating more destructive emotional patterns in our life. And then we can just see it there, and we can see, of course, exactly, I'm like that. It's not teaching you really new things about ourselves as much as it's giving us a language for what we've been experiencing all along. And when you can identify it with a language, and in this case, a mythological language. So a mythological language allows you to kind of see both the challenging side of things and see the prosperous side of things. Because everything always has both. There's a positive to the 8th house and a negative to the 8th house. Just like Ketu, there's difficult things with an eclipse. There's very positive things with an eclipse. If you can see and be aware of both, it's helpful in aligning with the positive things and not being dominated by the negative things, which tends to happen. When we just let on the default tendencies, stay on the default settings is our default emotional tendencies. So then you can kind of upgrade the operating system in a certain way. It's very cool, don't you think? And so then the 12th house is the house of distant travel. It's the house of solitude. It's the most ethereal. It's like the constellation of Pisces is the 12th house. It's dreamy. It's idealism. It's imagination and intuition. So those are the 12 houses which relate to the 12 constellations. So the main building blocks of the language is very simple. 12 houses, 12 constellations. You learn the constellations, you're kind of also simultaneously learning the houses. If you know something about Pisces, you already know something about the 12th house because it's the 12th constellation. There is in this course a bit of memorization that is going to, not required, but it's going to make your whole life easier. And it's just very simple. Memorize the order of the constellations. The first constellation is Aries. The second constellation is Taurus. The third is Gemini. So if you say the number 3, immediately your mind knows Gemini. You say the number 9, immediately your mind knows Sagittarius. But that comes with a memorization, and then every week going through this. And over about an 8 to 10 week period of time of doing this course, you'll know this language. And what that does, it's not like teaching you the ultimate astrology course. It's giving you the foundational building blocks. You can take it wherever you want after that. There's so many great astrology teachers and astrologers. This is a yogic astrology course. First and foremost, it's learning your inner architecture and learning how to work with it. And then you can also take that, and of course you're going to want to, part of how you learn is you're going to know all your family's charts, and you want to know your friends' charts. You want to know the people's charts that are in your life, because those are the energies that you get to see animate themselves in your life. If you know your kid's chart, you say, of course, he's a Virgo. He's got a Virgo moon, conjunct the sun and Ketu. And that will mean something to you after doing this. You're like, oh, of course, makes sense. Everybody else will be like, what the fuck are they talking about? But we will know. So when you have that sort of language, it actually gives you nice insight into the people in our lives and helps us have better understanding. So it's a course also of compassion. Because you have, like, with everything like yoga, like tantra, and Ayurveda. Ayurveda is a complete system of compassion. It's medicine. And especially astrology, all that we hold in the basket of compassion first and foremost, because otherwise you get down about your chart, or you start feeling poorly about yourself, or you start being judgmental about other people. No. First and foremost, we remember that this is about being happy, and my happiness is totally dependent on my genuine concern for your happiness. So often it's the case in astrology, we talk in the language of, like, for instance, benefic versus malefic, auspicious versus inauspicious. But to the yogi, that's inauspicious and auspicious are just kind of two sides of the same coin. We know that the challenging times brings a medicine that sweet times just simply cannot bring. We need it all. And so then when you are able to ingest bitter medicine, and you metabolize it, it's going to make you experience much deeper love than if we're going through challenging times with only the negative perspective. And so this is the beauty of it. So anyhow, this is, at Life Force Academy, we're all super excited because November 16th will be the first module of this course. And it'll be happening live each week, but you don't have to be there live. You can take it anytime, because if you join the class, you own it. You'll own it you have lifetime access. You can download it all, so you don't have to depend on internet connection. Say you're traveling somewhere and you want to do a module on the airplane. You can download it before you leave. You'll be an owner of the course. We provide the modules also in audio, so you can listen to them like you're going to walk the dog. And that it's best to take the module first when you're watching it, because there's a visual aspect to this, to actually be able to look at a chart and to understand it. And so for the last couple of weeks, we've worked to really put together and to make it real clear, like, what is this course about? What will you learn? And that's all on the webpage here that you can look at. What are you going to learn? Who's it for? Who's it not for? You can read about all that. And I know a lot of y'all are going to be excited because we've been flirting with this for some time now. And so we're going to do it. And I'm excited. I'm a student of this more than anything. And it's, more than anything, it's what I love to spend time paying attention to and looking at and doing. We'll be using charts of people we all know, historical figures, famous people, because this is how you understand the archetypes of life. And when you can see mythologies of life, like the mythologies that the constellations are telling us about, the mythologies that the planets are telling us about, and you can see that then express itself in our own lives, and then you see how your life is like a hero's journey. It lets you zoom out, because you also see it in other people's lives. And a big way that we end up seeing that type of heroic mythology in our own horoscope is by studying other people's horoscopes. And you'll be like, wow. And you'll be like, so cool. Then you'll see it in your own and you'll be like, wow, so cool. And so this is the deal. It starts November the 16th. It'll go, each week on Wednesdays will be the live class, but then every Friday there'll be an additional where the live class will be more like this, like we're doing, but then on Fridays it'll be more on like a Zoom platform, and it'll be very interactive Q&A style class. So that's every week. So there's really like 2 modules per week, and the main module with its Q&A class. And we'll look at lots of charts during those and this type of thing. It'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be great. And then over the holidays, though, we'll take breaks, and that'll be all right because there's going to be so much to metabolize and digest with this stuff, and going back and listening to it again, memorizing certain things. That may not be the most fun part of it, but it's the part of it that, like, when you learn a language, you have to spend some time on that side of the brain so that you can get into the artistic side of the brain, and it's worth doing that work. And what it does for the yoga practice is unmatched. Because in Kundalini Yoga, we've always used the language of astrology, but not that many of us have taken the deeper dive into the astrological principles. So when you do that, it brings the yoga practice alive in a whole new way and allows you to use the practice and really dial it in for you personally a lot more effectively as well in the different seasons of our life. So anyways, there's so much I could say about it, but I'll stop. If you get in now, it's the best price. It's a really good sale right now. Price goes up here shortly. And, on the next lunar eclipse webcast, we'll also be inviting everyone to come in, and then probably we'll do a little class on astrology before we start to help inspire more folks to come in. But at this time right now, it's the best price. Regular price for the course is $785. Tonight, right now, it's only $415. So it's a really big discount. And there's also a payment plan if you can't do the whole $415 right now. There's 3 payments of just $149. And so that, if that makes it easier for you and you're inspired to join, all that's there, all that's on the page, and lots more stuff. There's bonuses, you can read about them all. And but mostly right now, what I want to do is let's seal this time together in this practice this evening. Take your hands into the prayer pose. Inhale deeply. And exhale. Close the eyes for a moment. Take a moment, tune back into that intention you began the beginning of the class with. And hold that in your heart for a moment. Inhale deeply. And fully exhale. Inhale. Thanks, friends. Thanks, everyone. Happy eclipse time. Take care of yourself these couple of weeks. And we'll be doing this again on the new moon. And then also, of course, then we start the course in mid-November. On the full moon, the next eclipse, the lunar eclipse. Okay, thanks for being here, everybody. And have a beautiful rest of your day, your time. So, no. But you're wired somehow
Like you have a certain way of existing that is absolutely natural and skillful for you. It's you're talented in that way. It's how your heart expresses itself. It's how you get inside of love, and how love expresses itself uniquely through you.
If you have a mind, you have a mission.
If you have a mind,
You have a mission.
If you have a mind,
You have a mission.